How did they all interact with Epstein? How did Trump, Clinton, and Prince Andrew interact with him?
Everyone was very, very pally with him. You know, it was like there was a close bonds. You could.
They're probably in the brotherhood, and they probably Eiffel Towered some chicks. So when they see each other, they just hands up and go, "Ah, you remember that one time?" Ah.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
He said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with Epstein's conduct. They maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that.
Go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims.
We're not going to re-victimize women. We're not going to put that back out there.
You don't have to. We don't want, honestly, I don't care about the names of the girls. I just hope that they can live a normal life, right? A happy life. That's all I want for them. And the young guys who are probably involved in it too. I hope they can live normal, happy lives. But what I want is the predators, the people who are creating the victims, once more, to be held accountable.
AE-YAPS. It's in the name.
I know some of you are going to be sick and tired of me talking about the Epstein case, but for me, it's one of the most important things in my lifetime because I feel like, just like with the JFK and MLK assassinations, there's a lot of cover-ups, and this is just, to me, one of those pivotal points in history where it's just like, man, this is why people don't trust the government, because it's clear as day they're lying to us.
The President of the United States is trying to cover the Epstein story. It's the double down right here on Truth Social. A big post saying that actually it's the Democrats who wrote the Epstein files. This is just after Elon Musk, who worked with Trump for many months, said that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files.
In all fairness, this is when Elon was crashing out. I don't know if we want to use this as evidence.
That's the real reason they have not been made public. Obviously, we've already seen deflections from the president about Epstein, saying that it's a disgrace to talk about it.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? It just seems like a desecration.
But today, it goes a step further. Quick context. There's been a lot of infighting in the Republican Party over basically who's at fault for the giant botch of the Epstein files. With the majority...
Guys, don't let it be fooled. This is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is an American issue. This is an American problem. And I think Americans want to know what's going on with this. Because we don't want to know the girls or the young boys who might have been involved in the CP. We want the predators, the people creating the victims, we want them held accountable.
Republicans not wanting to believe that Trump himself was against a full release, but rather that he was sort of tricked into not releasing the Epstein files by one of his lackeys. But
he admitted that he probably wouldn't. That would be like the least likely thing that he would put out.
Today, Donald Trump came out and basically backed Pam Bondi, saying they're all going after Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein.
What a weird way to say this. All over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. Are you telling me he's alive?
For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Democrats who conned the world with the Russia hoax? They created the Epstein files just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton Steele dossier. Now, this is such a smokescreen and a deflection. This is not a left versus right issue. Epstein never has been. It's the people versus the predators, not left versus right. The people versus...
This, I am on board with what Coffee is putting out.
The pedophiles, the people versus the people on planes. There ain't no left versus right here. In fact, some of the people who want this the most are people on the right, even on Truth Social. Obviously a...
Wow. Fuck you. Release the Epstein files, you traitor. No, Mr. President. Sorry, MAGA doesn't agree with you on this Bondi situation. Read the room, Donald Trump. Campaigned on full transparency, and Pam Bondi needs to deliver full transparency or be fired.
Hugely Trump-favored place. Everybody is saying no.
Respectfully, release the files. Transparency or complicity, please.
This is unacceptable. You have to release the files. Later in the post, Trump also says that these are radical left-inspired documents and to not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. But actually...
To blame this on the left is just so infuriating because honestly, if the left had any information they would have released it during the last administration. They had that much damning evidence on Donald Trump, they would have already used it. Unless they were also involved in it. And if by releasing the files in full, it's mutually assured destruction on both ends, because we're talking about the top elites of the world, the descendants of the Rockefellers, the people like that, the top 1% of the top 1% are all involved in this. And people that have that much power absolutely are corrupted and absolutely are not going to allow that power just to go, right? We're talking about Bill Gates, all of these kind of individuals.
We all do care about it. You know who doesn't actually want this out? The elites. That's why they've never done it. That's why it was a compelling pitch when Donald Trump hinted to his base that maybe he was going to release the files. People largely didn't trust the job that Biden had done. That's why it was a compelling story. So the idea now that
the third issue, another reason why they haven't been released, is because we're not the only country to have the information. Supposedly, there's a country in the Middle East that's like Israel, Iran, Saudi Arabia. I'm not too sure, but apparently there's a country in the Middle East that also has potentially, apparently, a copy of this list.
It was Biden and Obama who invented the Epstein files is absolutely preposterous. They don't want that out either. And maybe that's because, as a producer of 60 Minutes alleged, Ghislaine Maxwell implied that there were tapes on Trump and also tapes on Clinton. You know who else said it? Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, saying Epstein said, "What I know about both candidates, the 2016 election would have to be canceled." So this whole idea that this is a left or right thing, it's not. It's the elites. Anybody who was on that plane, anybody who was associated with Epstein, seen with Epstein, even if they did nothing wrong, they don't want that out. Everyone who wasn't seen with Epstein, wasn't on that plane, of course they all want the files out. And what's interesting is obviously the Trump administration has sort of played footsie with this idea for a long time, playing to their base. They
even handed folders, binders to social media people and people of high stature to like say, guess what? The Epstein files, phase 1. This is just the first step. What's phase 2, phase 3? Like all of this is just, it's all optics, man.
know this is a big issue. They had the influencers stand out there with a bunch of released material, but we also showed clips of Donald Trump implying that maybe Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew were doing bad things on the island.
Bill Clinton.
Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island.
Bill Clinton, he has a lot of problems. There's a lot of problems out there for him, but I fear the island, that may be his greatest problem of them all. Well, why then? If you see, you're the one stoking the flames, man.
That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
So
can you understand that most Americans are watching TV shows where the government is covering up their tracks and doing super shady stuff and like stuff that we would not deem like morally ethical or on the side of good. And then we go through and we look at past events like Mar-a-Lago Bay, where you have the elites like burning an owl carcass, like weird stuff. You're telling me this island that's also probably weirdly connected with Nickelodeon and Hollywood, and that's probably where the trafficking of these young kids, these young high-gross kids, that put like, it's probably all super connected. And you're telling me that's real? Of course we're going to be interested in that. Because I think true Americans have this G.I. Joe mentality where we're trying to fight the side of good. Because there is good and evil in the world, and we're trying to be on the side of good. That is my probably very ignorant opinion on the matter, but that's just what I think of it. A real American, that's what I think of, man or woman.
Consistently, Trump has hinted that maybe these guys were involved with Epstein, maybe it was bad. But turns out all these guys knew each other and knew Epstein. We know this in part from a Piers Morgan interview where he talks to a lady who went to a dinner party with Trump, Clinton, Epstein, and Prince Andrew.
Extraordinary collection of very high-power people. How did they all interact with Epstein? How did Trump, Clinton, and Prince Andrew interact with him?
Everyone was very, very pally with him, you know. It was like there was close bonds, you could.
They're probably in the Brotherhood, and they probably Eiffel Towered some chicks, so when they see each other, they just hands up and go, ah, you remember that one time?
See that.
So these guys knew each other, apparently had dinner parties together, all of them together. Trump later accuses two of the guys of doing bad things. And then when we release the files, can we release the files? Well, no, actually, no, we can't do that. Nobody cares about that. The reason why seems obvious. Epstein knew Prince Andrew. Yes. He knew Bill Clinton. Yes. But he also knew Donald Trump. And recently tapes were released of Epstein talking and calling Donald Trump his closest friend.
So how do you know this?
So it makes intuitive sense to distance yourself from files that may or may not have your name in it, and even distance yourself from the people involved. It's worth stating Trump actually denied knowing Prince Andrew.
I don't know Prince Andrew.
Of course, this was immediately debunked by photos showing the two together. And of course, showing that they clearly knew each other as of 2000. Now, the reason you would deny knowing Prince Andrew, even though you did, is obvious. At the time, he was facing allegations related to Epstein. By the way,
That's not a good look. There's a lot of bad looks, and that was one of the worst of them.
Allegations that now are basically over. Prince Andrew is very happy about us dropping the Epstein probe.
Oh, I bet you
A source
are.
for The Sun said he's only been abroad once since the scandal erupted. Prince Andrew has always been very nervous about going abroad and always looking over his shoulder.
Why were you so nervous, Prince Andrew? Tell me.
As he should be, in my opinion, but now he's very happy because the guy who never met him but was photographed with him in 2000 just ended the investigation. Now, I have to say, Trump
Never said he didn't meet him. He just said he didn't know him, meaning like he might not have known his character. He might not have known him really that well. You know, probably no real business dealings to kind of see what kind of guy he is. And in Trump's world, he's a businessman. He's going to judge you based on what kind of businessman or woman you are.
Trump's been pretty consistent on the fact he has no interest in releasing
That's like
the
his skill
Epstein
in battle.
files in full. He said this multiple times. The reason most people have sort of a false memory of this, the reason it's sort of a Mandela effect that he campaigned on the idea of releasing the Epstein files is because Fox News released a deceptively edited clip where they cut out the part where he said, yeah, I'll probably release the Epstein files. And they cut out the part where then he backtracks on that completely.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
And that's the part most of us saw. Of course, later, people found out that the full clip showed him saying basically the opposite.
Yes, I would. I think that less so because, you know.
This is why mainstream media sucks, man. Why we have to get all our information from YouTube, and long-form content is always going to reign supreme because of stuff like this. It's like Kamala had so many instances where there was chopped up clips, and now here's one of Trump as well, where it's just like they said one thing on the clip, but when you play it in full, they said another thing.
You don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
We also have Bill O'Reilly on News Nation saying he just talked to Trump back on St. Patrick's Day, and Trump basically said the same thing.
He said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with Epstein's conduct. They maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that.
So over and over, we've seen the same answer from the president. Not the fact that, oh, no, the Epstein files, it's a lefty conspiracy. No, actually, it's the worry that people in the files are going to have their lives destroyed by the files. That sounds a lot more like covering for the people in the files than it does covering the victims. We've heard Kash Patel and Pam Bondi talk about, oh, we got to protect the victims.
Go through it very cautiously to protect all the victims.
We're not going to re-victimize women. We're not going to put that back out there.
You don't have to. We don't want, honestly, I don't care about the names of the girls. I just hope that they can live a normal life, right? A happy life. That's all I want for them. And the young guys who are probably involved in it too. I hope they can live normal, happy lives. But what I want is the predators, the people who are creating the victims, once more, to be held accountable. That's what I want.
But when we actually hear the president talk about it, and the real reason, right, because he's ultimately the decision maker on whether this gets released, what the real reason is cited is not about victims. It is about the people, the names in the thing. So I find it disgusting. They're using the victims of Epstein as a shield for the people who are actually in these files. Now, of course, who specifically is he worried about? Well, maybe it's his friends, maybe it's people he has dinner parties with, and of course, maybe it's him, Donald Trump, that he's worried about. The journalist Michael Wolff actually quotes Steve Bannon as saying Jeffrey Epstein was really feared in 2016 for what he knew.
I was there, and it was that moment, and Bannon said to Epstein, and he said this in a good humor. He said during the campaign, it would be the 2016 campaign, you, meaning Jeffrey Epstein, were the only person I was afraid of.
So that is 3 independent sources. You've got the Ira Rosen quote, the Michael Wolff quote, and the Mark Epstein quote, all saying that there is some type of damaging information on Trump. 2 of those people specifically implying that it's also on Clinton as well. You also have the Elon Musk allegation from left field, but he doesn't source anybody, so we won't count that. Either way, I must say, I don't know for sure if Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, Donald Trump were heavily involved in anything nefarious or not. That is exactly why we should all demand that we open these files. But the possibility of both Democrats and Republicans being implicated in some of these files, whether they did it or not, or just knew him, may give a plausible reason for why the Epstein files have been heavily redacted this whole time. There are very powerful people involved. We've known that. The reason we've been given, of course, is that, we've got to protect the victims. The real reason behind the scenes is really they're protecting the powerful people. Now, the most charitable interpretation is, as Bill O'Reilly said, it's because those people would have their lives ruined. They had nothing to do with Epstein, but we know some of them probably did. We know this from the Miami Herald because the FBI agents who searched Epstein's house found a cache of thick black binders all labeled with names that contained hundreds of naked or semi-naked photographs on CDs that Epstein stored in various...
The issue with this is the government's official deeming is that all of these lists is just with all the names, it's just one name. It's just Jeffrey Epstein. But apparently there's multiple names with hundreds of naked and semi-naked photographs.
Places. The labels on the binders were redacted from photos because prosecutors said they were names of third parties who were not relevant to the case they are mounting against Ghislaine Maxwell. So my question is, are those some of the third parties? Their names are on binders with a bunch of explicit photographs that Epstein was storing? That seems like something we should be investigating. Or what about the fact that since the FBI is saying there's no blackmail involved with Jeffrey Epstein, we investigate the Wall Street Journal report that Jeffrey Epstein allegedly tried to extort Bill Gates over an extramarital affair, because I thought there was no blackmail involved. And my real plea to people is to not allow comments like this, these statements about partisan politics, to trick you into thinking this is some type of left versus right issue. That is the Trump play right now.
Don't let it work, boys and girls.
I don't think it's going to work. I think it's a disaster. I think it's very stupid. I think people on the right are just as interested as people on the left. I think this is a universal issue, as it should be.
I think this is an American issue. It's an American culture issue. And I think real Americans want to uncover what's going on because, once more, I think real Americans want to side on the side of good.
If there are predators in the highest offices in the land, be they Democrat or Republican, we want to know about it.
Shout out to CoffeeZilla for following this case. I know so many people are kind of getting frustrated with the Epstein thing, but to me, it's a very important issue to cover. I want to stay involved in it because in my lifetime, this is like the most obvious government cover-up ever. But let me know what you guys think about this down below. Make somebody laugh today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.